The EMI Group case, a UK case, considered the Article 16 samples and small gifts exceptions to the deemed supply of goods rules. Now, the EMI gave away records and CDs to DJs, disc jockeys. Now, UK authorities did not regard these as samples, as they were not given to potential customers. The DJs weren't going to buy more records, they were just being given them to play on their radio stations. So the UK didn't regard them as proper samples because they weren't given to people that were likely to buy more. The UK authorities didn't regard them as small gifts either. In the UK, the small gifts rules is that anything under £50 is regarded as a gift of a small value. But that is extended because if a series of gifts is given to the same person in a 12-month period, this series of gifts are grouped together and then compared to the £50 limit. So, for example, the initial gift was, let's say, £30, and then 6 months later another gift of, say, £40 was given. You would have to consider the two together. And on that second gift, there will be a deemed supply on the value of the two gifts. And that's the way the UK has interpreted these small gifts exemptions. Every member state will be different, but that's how the UK interpreted it, and this is a UK case, the EMI Group case. Now, EMI accounted for output tax on their deemed supplies in accordance with the UK law. Now, after many years of accounting for output tax on the deemed supplies, EMI decided to question whether UK law was in accordance with Article 16 of the VAT Directive. They're effectively seeking to apply the principle of direct effect. If the VAT Directive meant that their gifts of CDs, etc., were within the small gifts exemption or samples, then there should be no deemed supply. And if that's what the directive says, it will override the UK law. i.e. EMI Group could rely on the directive and they would not have to account for output tax. Indeed, they could go back and recover the output tax they had been accounting for. The ECJ considered this case, and they held that the gifts were quite clearly for business purposes. There's only one reason why EMI would be giving CDs, etc., to a disc jockey, and that would be to promote their business. It would be for a business purpose. The ECJ then defined a sample, a very important definition, as a specimen of a product which is intended to promote the sales of that product and which allows the characteristics and qualities of that product to be assessed without resulting in final consumption, other than where the final consumption is inherent in such promotional transactions. So a very important definition there given by the ECJ. Now, in conclusion, the ECJ thought that the UK was wrong to restrict the samples exceptions to gifts to potential customers. It was quite clear that the DJs would be playing these CDs on their radio stations, and a wider market would be hearing those songs, etc. And this would encourage further sales of those albums, songs, etc. So this was a sample. EMI were trying to promote further sales of their product. Now, not that it mattered, but the ECJ also went on to consider the small gifts exemption. Now, they held that the £50 rule in the UK was a fair application of the gifts of small value provision. Now, this was providing that as long as the person was an individual when considering a series of gifts to the same person, then that was fine. Now, the difference there was, previously the UK had regarded a person as an organisation. So if, for example, you gave your product to, let's say, 5 employees of a customer, then that was just one person for this test. Whereas the ECJ has said no, persons for this small gifts exemption. It would be reasonable if you considered individuals. So you've got 5 individuals and 5 lots of £50 to play with effectively. But so it wasn't entirely relevant to this case, but it's a useful comment on whether the UK exception on this small gifts rule was valid. And it was held to be valid, with that minor clarification on what a person is on this series of gifts rules.